A fresh U.S. security alert in Jerusalem is sounding alarms as Iran's unrest deepens and fears of war grow. The U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem has issued a new security warning, urging American citizens to review travel plans and prepare for sudden disruptions. Officials cited ongoing regional tensions, a phrase increasingly linked to Iran's nationwide protests and mounting threats against the United States and Israel. The alert comes as Tehran faces its most volatile moment in years, with mass demonstrations, fast-track trials, and warnings of retaliation. Iranian leaders have threatened consequences if Washington or Israel intervenes, fueling fears of a wider regional conflict. Against this backdrop, the embassy urged Americans in Israel to strengthen personal security and preparedness plans. Citizens were told to stay alert, monitor official updates, and be ready to act if conditions deteriorate rapidly. The embassy encouraged enrollment in this Smart Traveler Enrollment Program, known as STEP, allowing faster emergency contact. Americans were also advised to ensure passports are valid for short-notice travel amid uncertainty. Despite the warning, U.S. officials stressed that embassy staffing and consular services remain unchanged. There is no evacuation order, but the alert signals heightened concern over unpredictable escalation. Earlier, the U.S. State Department has issued an urgent security alert, ordering all American citizens in Iran to leave immediately. The U.S. State Department has issued a grave security alert, ordering all American citizens in Iran to leave immediately. In stark and unprecedented language, Washington has warned that no assistance, protection, or rescue should be expected, underscoring the severity of the threat as conditions rapidly deteriorate. Leave Iran now. No rescue, no guarantees. That is the blunt message echoing from the corridors of power as tensions spiral and unrest tightens its grip on the Islamic Republic, signaling a moment of extreme peril with no safety net in sight. The advisory comes as Iran faces nationwide unrest that has triggered deadly clashes with authorities and sweeping security crackdowns. Mobile networks and internet services have been shut down across large parts of the country as Tehran moves to suppress what it calls foreign-fueled violence. In a stark message, the U.S. Virtual Embassy in Tehran told Americans to leave at once, stressing that Washington cannot guarantee their safety if they attempt to travel. The alert warns that U.S. nationals face significant risk of questioning, arrest, or detention, stating that even carrying an American passport may be grounds for detention. Dual nationals are instructed to exit Iran using only Iranian passports, a move highlighting the severity of the threat environment. For those unable to leave, the advisory urges Americans to shelter in secure locations and stockpile food, water, medication, and essential supplies. The warning underscores fears that conditions on the ground could deteriorate rapidly with little notice. The crisis unfolds against the backdrop of sharply rising tensions between Tehran, Washington, and West Jerusalem, following last summer's U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. President Donald Trump has defended the attacks as necessary to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons, a claim Tehran strongly denies. Last week, Trump escalated rhetoric further, saying his administration is considering very strong options, including potential airstrikes. On Monday, Trump said Iran wants to negotiate with Washington after his threat to strike. There's sets of people in it from Iran say gates diplomatically with you or perhaps negotiate on nuclear with Iran. Yeah, do you think they want to engage diplomatically? They do. They called maybe yesterday. Did someone off Iran call to negotiate? Yesterday had the leaders of Iran call they want to negotiate. What? I think they're tired of being beat up by the United States. Iran wants to negotiate, yes. negotiate. We may meet with them. I mean, a meeting is being set up, but we may have to act because of what's happening before the meeting. But a meeting is being set up. Iran called. They want to negotiate. Thank you very much, everybody. The White House states President Donald Trump is considering airstrikes on Iran, but prioritizes diplomacy as his first choice. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt informed reporters that Trump keeps all options on the table. She emphasized airstrikes as just one of many possibilities under review. President Trump strikes off the table in Iran. It disbelievers a potential path to end the process there without military action. Well, I think one thing President Trump is very good at is always keeping all of his options on the table, and airstrikes would be one of the many, many options that are on the table for the commander-in-chief. Diplomacy is always the first option for the president. He's told all of you last night that what you're hearing publicly from the Iranian regime is quite differently from the messages the administration is receiving privately, and I think the president has an interest in exploring those messages. However, with that said, the president has shown he's unafraid to use military options if and when he deems necessary, and nobody knows that better than Iran. President Steve Witkoff talking to the Iranians at the Noim. I understand that Steve Witkoff will continue to be a very important player in diplomacy, with respect to Iran. What did the president mean the last night when he said that Iran had called to negotiate and that there may be a meeting that is set up? What else do you want me to explain by that, Paul? If you would be a part of that, there was an official from the Iranian government, I believe it was reported earlier, that reached out to a member of the president's very close team, Special Envoy Witkoff, expressing a far different tone than what you're seeing publicly. Iranian officials responded with a chilling warning, vowing that U.S. and Israeli bases and personnel would become legitimate targets if Washington intervenes. Tehran also claims it has uncovered evidence of foreign-backed infiltrators, including Mossad operatives, allegedly working to destabilize the country and create a pretext for intervention. What was the objective? The aim was to significantly increase the number of casualties at the scene of the demonstrations. Why? Because Mr. Trump, the President of the United States, had said that when people are being killed, we will come and intervene. This very statement is a blatant interference in the internal affairs of other countries. For a country to allow itself to say, if there are protests or anything else, I will come and intervene. Military intervention. But the most important thing was that it was because of his words. The elements who were seeking to create widespread unrest then proceeded to ensure that the number of fatalities would increase in order to potentially draw the United States into intervention. We have audio recordings of messages that were sent from outside the country to these terrorist elements. That you should open fire among the demonstrators. If you manage to hit the police, then hit the police. If that's not possible, then hit an ordinary person, a civilian. If even that's not possible, then hit that girl, that boy who is standing right there in front of you, hit them. And all that matters is for the death toll to rise and more blood to be shed. Meanwhile, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, urged American politicians to end their deceit and praised state-organized pro-government rallies held across Iran today. Iran's reformist president, Masoud Pezeshkian, struck a hardening tone in a Sunday interview amid nationwide protests challenging the theocracy. He stated that while people's concerns must be addressed, the higher duty remains preventing rioters from destroying society. We ask our dear people, as we have before, to gather in their neighborhoods and not allow these individuals to create chaos. The people must remain present on the ground. If people have concerns, it is our duty to address those concerns. But the higher duty is not to allow a group of rioters to come and destroy the entire society. I acknowledge the concerns of our dear people, perhaps 80 or 90% of them, and I firmly assure them that we are making every effort to resolve these concerns. We will emerge from this crisis, just as we are currently addressing various imbalances, and doing so rapidly, despite all the sanctions being imposed. And those individuals who come and deliberately create fatalities, who kill innocent people on the ground and set things on fire, this is something that cannot be accepted. We ask our dear young people who have reached their own conclusions, rightly or wrongly, not to be deceived by these agitators and terrorists. This country belongs to us. They do not want the dignity and pride of this land. During the 12-day war, Israel and the United States tried to bring us to our knees, but they failed because the people did not allow it. These are not protesters, they are violent agitators. We accept protesters and we acknowledge their concerns. We are making every possible effort to address those concerns. We ask our dear people to stand firmly against those who are violent agitators and who are damaging public property. What wrongdoing has a shop owner committed that his shop should be set on fire? We will also look into their problems and provide assistance. Protest is the right of the people, and we are obliged to respond to their protests. But unrest and attacks on public places, setting fire to mosques, burning the Book of God, this is clearly a plan by the United States and Israel. The people can see it. This is Israel speaking of humanity, while at the same time inflicting such suffering on human beings. This comes amid ongoing demonstrations that have swept the country since December 28th, resulting in nearly 650 protests.